Hi everyone, so this is the article, this is the video to talk about the article Corporate Stockholm Syndrome, which is on the very last page of the Blue Book, page 115. It's only one page long, but it's interesting and it sort of culminates the various articles that we've been talking about on corporate culture and such. So, Corporate Stockholm Syndrome. So, of course, what's first important to understand is what is Stockholm Syndrome. So, it's a very famous term and it's defined in the second paragraph. Stockholm Syndrome refers to the psychological phenomenon when the hostages, when the people who are held prisoner, start to sympathize with the people holding them captive. And this is very famous, and people could look it up. I think it began in World War II. The phenomenon began to be noticed that when people are held captive for a long time, they develop a sense of empathy for the people who are keeping them in prison, because these are the people who are feeding them and taking care of them, even though, of course, they're the ones who are torturing them, possibly, and holding them against their will. So this is a very, again, famous idea. People tend to know right away what is meant by Stockholm Syndrome. So corporate Stockholm Syndrome is the condition where you're employed and your boss, the management, the company, treats you badly, and as a result of them treating you, the employee, badly, you work even harder for them. Because they treat you badly, that inspires you to want to please them. And of course, it's irrational, and yet it happens. And the article is important, and it points this out because it's leaving people traumatized. It's leaving people feeling bad for having gone through this process. So I know people are always interested in my questions. So the first question is not really that important, but since it's there, this phenomenon deserves some articulation is a fancy word for a fancy phrase for this problem deserves some articulation. This problem in one and then this is phenomenon in the other just means that because this is such a big thing, that it's important that this situation be looked at. So this is what the article does. It's articulating the ideas about corporate Stockholm syndrome. What is meant by the inculcation to company culture? So this is down, and I think we're looking at these aren't numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the fifth paragraph, it talks about how the people, the employers are constantly saying you need to be better, and they keep scolding and berating and chastising the workers. So through this repetition, you learn to understand what is important at the company. That at this company we keep things clean and we do this and we make sure it's spotless and we work overtime without pay because we do whatever is necessary for the good of the company. So it's through inculcation is the repetition of ideas that get people to believe them, and again, this is done at the detriment to the to create loyalty, but it causes harm to the person as an individual. It talks about also, I think I'm looking at my notes here, there are occasions company provides perks. So it also talks about how there's a combination of treating people badly and kindness. So you get treated very badly, but then there's like the dinner, the corporate dinner or the softball game or free tickets to something that you feel rewarded. And it's this abusive relationship, and it really is a relationship similar to abusive relationships in domestic partnerships and marriages, where the person is mean and cruel and abusive and sometimes violent with the spouse or the significant other, and then is kind. So it creates this confusion of you feel fear, and then you feel happiness for being rewarded with the kindness. So the same thing happens in corporate settings. There isn't physical abuse usually in the corporate settings, but it talks about that there's verbal abuse and punishments of demotions and being assigned tasks that that one wouldn't want and stuff. So that's the way in which the abuse happens in a corporate setting. But it is interesting to think of your relationship with your employer as a relationship. So it goes on and talks about that. And then it talks about how the workers experience trauma that is really unhealthy for them. And it's important also to remember that so much of our day, under normal circumstances, we spend at our jobs. That a third of our lives are spent at the place where we work, and how the environment of that experience goes, how being in that environment goes, really has a huge impact on us. So it's really, again, interesting to look at this phenomenon of how being treated badly causes a person to be all the more inspired to work harder for them. So, so if my questions are here, I'm going to go through them, maybe illuminate some things. So have you ever been in a situation in which your workplace tried to control you through subversive means? So here, has anybody experienced this where you're treated badly, at work to get you to work harder? And how did that go? The details. What did you learn from it? Create a thesis. Don't just tell me this is what happened, but what is the point you're trying to make if you use this option? The next one. The article explains how employees would rationalize being treated badly. Explain a time when you rationalized something that you did. So rationalizing means that you behave in a certain way, regardless of this situation or something else, and then it's confounding, it's confusing. Why would you do that? Why would you do something that doesn't make sense? So in hindsight, in retrospect, rationalization is you come up with a way to tell yourself why you did it. And that's a very important thing to understand, because it's icky psychologically for people to do things, when you do things that are not in your own best interest, and you did them of your own free will. That's a hard thing to understand. So what the human mind does is it rationalizes, meaning that it tells itself a story. Well, I did this because I didn't have a choice, you could tell yourself. Or I did this because I really do believe in this project. Or yes, I know that this person treated me badly, but I am hopeful that I could change that person's way, so that they could become a better self, and then we will love each other and so forth. So again, what rationalization is that you've already done something, and now you have to explain to yourself why you did it to live with yourself. So again, it's a very interesting thing to talk about. So my question here is, explain a time that you did something and then rationalize it. So you would explain what you did, that, because now you're even older and more mature and wiser, hopefully, than you were when you did this, and then when you rationalized why you did it, and now you can just look back and say, yeah, I did this thing, and it was not a good thing to do, and I told myself this is why I did it, but now I'm separated enough from that experience where I say, you know what, I did a thing, I wasn't completely in control of myself, and now I can forgive myself and understand my rationalization. So that's what that question's really looking at. Third one, explain the process in which treating someone badly gets him or her to be loyal to the person or group not treating him well. This is counterintuitive, yet happens all the time with friends and in the military. This is why part of what they do when you see all those basic training movies that show basic training, where they call them maggots and this, and they really break them down, where there's this idea that you break down the person's spirit to build them up in the form that you want them to be. Relationships, fraternities, all the fraternity hazing that goes on. How can a person protect oneself from this kind of manipulative treatment? So again, it's interesting to think about this idea that, how we do this to each other, this treating people badly to get people's loyalty. So people have thoughts on that and experiences with that. That's what that question is meant to deal with. Okay, so I hope this helps, and we're going to get through these, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.